Thank you.
Okay, so we're just going to look at some real basics of drum mixing on this track here. So we have a completely clean mixer. There's no compression on any of the drums,
Right.
no EQ, no effects or anything. It's a new
And
mix.
yeah, it's good to know on the way in, there was no compression or the only EQ we done was, well, that I done was taking out some like room noise in the lower mids on the kit, which I done on the board. But apart from that, that's all that done. It's just recorded, yeah. No,
So it's recorded nice and neutral. You've got your
yeah.
two kicks are going into one bus, so they can be treated together if you want to. You've got your two snares going to another bus, so they can be treated together if you want to. The two overheads are going into their own bus, so they can be given the same EQ treatment as each other and compressed together if need be. And then all of the drum buses and individual mics going into one drum bus, bus 8. So we've got a nice setup there. So um, first up, is there any editing that you're planning to do on this?
Well, usually now, because just for the whole sake of recording, we have done previous sessions where we spoke about quantizing the audio.
Yeah.
So I would do that now.
Uh-huh.
I would do it from the kick and the snare.
Sure. So,
And
are you familiar with sort of grouping tracks together to do editing like that?
yeah, so I know we can add kind of, groups down here. Like I can put it in group one,
Yeah,
and then I'll
yeah.
call it like drums, and I can click the quantize
There we
log.
go. Yeah. And take it off volume and mute. So we're like the important thing really um, is that none of these drums are going to be edited any different to any of the other channels. If it's you've got 10 or so channels there, but they're all one recording, so you can't really edit any of them individually from each other. So that now that you've done that, you can open up your folder tracks and you can really easily sort of swipe across and get between different parts of your take. So I just like it sounds like the take is pretty together, but this just gives you the option now to straight away just swap out a couple of bars here and there with some of
Yeah.
your other takes. Just if you're mixing and you find one slightly untidy bar, you can just sort it out straight away, and you know that it's all going to be set up correctly for that.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah. To be honest, I don't know why I didn't even think to like take off volume and mute. So I would always like push one up and then all of the drums would go up. Like say I pushed the room up a bit, like then all the drums would go up and I was like, what is going on? Like this is so stressful. This
Yeah, there's times when that's going to be useful, but when we're sort of mixing the drums right now, we're looking at the individual channels and the balance between them. So yeah, we want to have those channels grouped for editing, but not for mixing, so we can so we have freedom over the mixer. Okay, okay. So let me just check a couple of things. So with the snare, do you have is there a snare top and bottom? Yes, there is. A snare
there.
and a snare bottom. It says
What time? That's it.
bottom. Uh,
I've got a piccolo snare. So it's something a bit different.
all right. So just let me check. Are you familiar with the phase relationship between top and bottom snare mics and that sort of thing?
Yeah. So I do understand, like, you have one side wave going kind of up and down, and then another one going down and up.
Yeah,
And if they hit directly, then you're going to hear nothing. But if they're still out of phase but not 100%, then it's going to cancel out the bottom end, right?
very good. Yeah, that's exactly it. So like really like for proper thorough drum mixing, that's where I start. I make sure that the phase relationship between all of the
Yeah.
mics is correct. Now, now you're a great engineer. I don't know. It might be that you did that during your recording process. They look to be in phase. Your kicks are looking good.
So
As
yeah,
fine as a snare drum.
find a good hit on the snare drum.
It's great with the kick. You can really see it very clearly.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's zoom right in on that. Okay.
these look to be the wrong way round.
It looked like it might be a little bit, yeah, the wrong way around. Also, the bottom is maybe a little bit later than the top, but
Yeah,
so I'm not sure if that's going to be quite so straight. It does, yeah, it looks like they are out of phase, but not quite in time with each other as well. So
it's strange. How do you fix that?
so with that one, I really think it's really going to be a case of just getting the gain plugin on one of those channels and
Yeah.
swapping it over to see which sounds fatter, because I'm not sure if I could predict exactly how they're going to relate to each
I
other.
know. So strange, isn't it?
Just solo those two snare channels, and let's check the phase relationship.
I think it sounds like it's got more bottom end on. I don't know if it's in my ears, but when I have it pushed in, it sounds like it's a bit more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. Yeah. So swapping the phase is helping with that. So um, now there is, because all of these mics are picking up a little bit of all of the drums. There is actually a phase relationship between all of them, all of the signals. And so like it's most obvious on the where you've got two mics on the kick or two mics on the snare from a similar distance. You can really see it very clearly on the kick mic. But actually, all of the mics are going to interact in some way. So, if I was doing this in complete thoroughness,
Yeah.
and I would, I'd be testing them all against each other. And generally, what I'd do, um, there we go. So like there's your yeah. So yours your overheads are nicely in phase with each other. So that looks like they've got the sound is arriving at the same time. Um, the phase relationship gets more complex than to be able to necessarily see what's going on.
Yeah.
So really, it is a case of listening. My
Okay.
process for this is to do it all to the overheads.
Okay.
So I'd
Cool.
solo the overheads, and then bring in like one of the kick mics, for example.
Would you do, should I do it on the bus or do you
Yeah,
over?
sure. Yeah.
It's just one plug, isn't it? So I can like.
So you might want to bring the kick, just bring in one of the kick mics, just so it's a very simple situation. Okay. And get the kick mic so it's like just ignore the bounce for a moment and get the kick mic kind of similar in volume to how it is in the overhead. So it's like so it's comparable in level a little bit. So probably you're going to turn up your overheads or turn down the kick just for a moment so we can compare the phase. Okay, all right, that's fine. And now pop the gain plugin on the kick. I think you're just on the one next to it there. There we go. All right, and now let's open that up and swap the phase and let's see what happens with that.
Give a bit pressed in.
Yeah,
Good. I think it sound better with it in. Like these, I'm only using HS5 speakers, so they don't have a great low end, but I can definitely hear the kind of the punch and the central image of the
yeah.
thing. Definitely
No,
better.
I can hear it. Yeah, that's yeah, it's subtle,
Yeah.
but that will make a slight difference. So now we saw that the both of the kick mics are definitely in phase with each other. So you want to do the same thing with the other kick mic, so that we can be pretty sure that's going to be the case. Now let's do it with one of the snare mics. I know we know the snare mics are out of phase with each other, but are they in phase with the overheads? So
So yeah,
let's get rid of the kick mic now, and now let's try that.
again, a bit where there's the actual snare drum is.
Okay.
Okay, so now we can I'm just going to move this over for a second.
Yep. There we go.
Definitely.
So it's fatter like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so now, so all the mics have this sort of relationship. All these changes, they are incremental. They're small changes, right? But when you add them all together,
Yeah.
it makes a really big difference. We've already worked out that the two snare mics are out of phase with each other, so we've moved that gain plugin over to the top mic, and now they're both back in phase with each other and with the overheads. Okay.
Fantastic. And
So, so now those kicks and those snares are just going to ring a little bit stronger and truer, and be just a little bit more punchy than they otherwise would have been.
yeah, and I think that was the thing that I brought up initially, wasn't it? That I don't feel like the drums are hitting quite as strong as they should.
Yeah, yeah.
You
I
know,
mean,
but
of course there's more that
yeah.
that we can do to push that, but this is where it starts. It's just to make sure that all the mics doing what they are already doing are adding together and not taking away from each other in any sense. So, and this is the same for the toms as well. Probably with room mics, there's going to be too much randomness and difference for that to make much of a difference. But it can be interesting to check it anyway. So
Yeah.
I'd do this on the toms as well, just to make sure that they are all aligned with the overheads.
I just do it on everything, like the piccolo, the toms, everything,
Yeah,
basically.
ultimately, yeah, that's it's all going to help. Yeah, yeah. Let's just do it. Let's just do it.
This one sounded a bit harder to hear. And
Yeah, I'm not hearing a big difference in that.
uh,
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes it'll make more of a difference than others.
so we have some tom hits like here on the looks of it. After we've heard of. Well, I think they sound weird when it's pressed in on that one.
Yeah,
On
I agree. I agree. I think you're dead right. It's subtle, but it's there.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Did that one. Leave that off on that.
Yeah,
Okay, and then the room. You said it might might not make a
it might
difference.
not make a difference with the room really. Just you've because it's going to be more randomized the way the different frequencies sort of hit that mic. Yeah, so not much of a difference. Maybe it's marginally better without flipping the phase. It's a little bit like doing an eye test, this, isn't it? It's like
Yeah.
which of these is sort of clearer, which of these is, and sometimes it's easy to tell, and sometimes less so. But yeah, okay. So yeah, that is a good place to start with this stuff, just to make sure that all the mics are singing from the same hymn sheet. Right. Okay. So I really like that you've panned out your toms to meet them in the overheads. That's really nice. So one kind of principle of drum mixing that I like to use is that I'm either going to sort of base my drum sound around the close mics or the overheads,
Right.
and either way, close mics, like getting a balance between the close mics, you can do sort of without the overheads in a sense, and then you have an option to sort of like blend between your close mic sound and your overhead sound to sort of get a more punchy sound or a more ambient sound, and like different genres are going to ask for different things. Uh, this is quite a sort of naturalistic kind of acoustic sound, so it probably doesn't want to sound too over processed, is what I'm thinking with this. So yeah, they're definitely going to be singing together, I think, and the overheads are going to be definitely a part of the mix.
I don't know if you know this guy, but I think his name was like Jeff Picaro or something. He's like the Toto drummer.
Okay.
So this is like the whole thing of when they recorded, the drummer was like, I really like, this guy's style and sound.
Mm.
Hence the kind of shuffled stuff on it. And
Yeah, yeah, I can hear that. I can.
yeah, it's very influenced by that kind of Toto style of drumming. And
Mm.
so,
Cool. Okay. So, um, next thing for me would probably just to be get a balance between the kick, snare, and the tom close mics. Just with the faders, just to get everything together. Because like really, in terms of the punch and the weight of those, they kind of want to be quite similar. They're like, bom ba 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 bom ba 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 bom ba ba. It's all kind of like yes, they're different instruments, they're different tonalities, they're different parts of the kit, but they should be quite balanced against each other. They're two like they rock between each other.
mhm.
So so yeah, probably again just sort of getting the balance of those happy. Should we just knock out the overheads and the rooms, and let's just look at the close mics. Start with getting a really nice balance between your kick and your snare. And again, just start with volumes. Just use the faders to get a pure balanced sound, and then once you've got that and all those are together, it'll tell you what is lacking, and you'll be able to make an informed kind of choice as to where you need EQ, where you need compression.
Okay, fantastic.
I can bring that bottom snare mic in as well, which is really nicely recorded, Jack.
Thank you. For me, somewhere around there sounds okay.
That's
Okay.
great. Okay, fantastic. And let's just do the same thing. Let's bring in the floor and the rack now, and just volume wise, just get those together.
Okay.
Great. Okay. All right. So we're on our way to a really good drum balance here now. Okay. Presumably your overheads are nicely balanced left and right, and there's no sort of bias to one side or the other. That's
I know, there's a little bit going that way.
I mean, listen. This is one case to solo the overheads, I think, and just make sure that what you're hearing sounds. Um,
Right.
yeah, I think given that you've got drums all around the kit, that's pretty well balanced. Okay.
Oh, fantastic.
So now, like just straight away, you've got a control now. You've got a good balance of your close mics.
Mhm.
And so it now becomes very easy to just control the amount of roominess, the amount of cymbals, just with one fader. And you can now sort of almost think of it as two things. You've got your close stuff and you've got your distant stuff, and you can blend between them really easily. Okay. All right. So
Right.
yeah, do you want to just sort of find a balance with your overheads, just to sort of see what you like with that right now?
Yeah.
And oh, let's balance that piccolo snare as well.
Okay, yeah, I like it something around the kind of midpoint. Is it gonna stop? Yeah.
Okay, so like this is just the basics. We've done this really thoroughly, and that's a really good starting point for the rest of it. What occurs to you now about like what you're hearing? What would you want to change right now?
Mm. I feel like the snare is very like up and down. Like 1 minute it's like on top of the kick, and next minute it's underneath in a
Hmm.
way. So I
Yeah.
feel like that's the first thing that really jumps out to me in terms of like, oh, what needs to be solved.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, a bit of compression can help with that certainly.
Hmm.
Um, so um, yeah. Have you come across the DBX 160 style compressors?
I
The
used to own two of them,
Oh
funnily enough,
wow.
like two outboard ones, and then
Oh,
yeah, I'll be honest, I regret getting rid of them, but I got rid of them to start my 500 series rack, and
bet.
now I'm just going to end up buying the 500 series versions because I just
Okay.
yeah.
I mean, I've got pretty good results out of the 160 emulation in Logic. So let's crack a compressor on the snare drum there. And is it the I think is it vintage VCA? No, no,
See,
no. Sorry. Yeah, that's the one.
yeah.
Yeah, so this is the one that sort of pretends to be a 160.
Okay,
Uh,
fantastic.
so and it's got that nice attack quality where it doesn't have such a fast attack that it won't give you some nice kind of snap
Yeah.
and punch to the snare. So yeah, so you've taken off auto gain. That's good. So let's just find a place where let's just.
Well, do you find yourself using the auto gain at all, like, or do you usually just have it off and
I usually have it off because I feel like I have much better control over the compressor with that. If auto gain is switched off, then I know that the only thing the compressor is going to do is turn stuff down when it's too loud.
Okay, great. Yeah.
If auto gain is turned on and I turn down the threshold, things start to come up, and it's sort of like, yeah, we use compressors to turn stuff down that's too loud, but also we sort of think of them as turning stuff up that's too quiet. I just find it's simpler to think of it as turning stuff down that's too loud, and I really know how it's responding if it's doing that.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah.
Personally. Uh,
No, it makes complete
And
sense.
certainly when I'm teaching about compression, I always sort of like say to take the auto gain off so you know exactly what you're hearing. Because when
Yeah.
things get louder, they're impressive. We like the sound of things getting louder. We think, oh, that sounds better. But if it's doing that, and it might not even be compressing it at all. It's just turning it up for you at that point, and it's hard to make a judgment on it. So yeah, let's just let's do a little bit of compression work on that snare, just to sort of control that a little bit. Um,
I don't do those. See, look, and this is where I feel like my mindset needs to change because I am like naturally a rock guy, where obviously, as you know, theirs are like quite hard hit, and quite compressed sometimes. So
Yeah.
I naturally want to lean towards that, and it's hard to kind of break the habit sometimes. So it's like,
Sure, sure. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Well,
but
I mean,
yeah. Oh, sorry.
like it's good to know that about yourself
Yeah.
and just sort of and think about how and just refocus yourself then on like what's going to serve the song best. It might be that your excitingly compressed drum sound is going to bring this song into another level, like, and that will be your sound here,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
uh, yeah, but yeah. So like, it looks like you got like a modest but effective amount of compression there. I just like the way this compressor responds on drums. It gives it that nice punch without and flattens things out without sapping the energy. It sort of seems to add some energy.
I'll be honest. I have like, I d- I am guilty of like overlooking the Logic stock compression
Mm.
compressor. Like I only really use it if I'm like creating effects like side chaining, like to get that kind of pumping effect or something. But I'm so guilty of just overlooking it and going to like a third party
Yeah.
plug.
I mean, we've got our favorites, but
Yeah,
I just know that we both have this.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, um, and yeah, a lot of them are great. I mean, like if I'm compressing vocals, usually there's other things that I use for that. But for this sort of thing, this works great.
Yeah. All
Um,
right.
okay, all right.
Let me just double
So
check. Okay, yeah, you can actually hear it like adding a bit more transient, it feels like.
yeah, it does. Yeah, yeah. That's the DBX 160 thing, isn't it? It's like it gives you that sort of that smack at the start of the sound, which is exciting, but it will sort of help to control the body of the sound a little bit as well. So, um, it sounds great on kicks as well. It really can add some nice sort of punch to a kick if it needs it. You can explore it now, but
Yeah.
if you want. Um, yeah, too much. Yeah,
Yeah.
cool. Okay, so yeah, these are options. These are options. That's just adding a little bit of excitement and balance to it. Okay, so EQing drums. Tell me about tell me about how you go about EQing, say, a kick drum. What are your thoughts on that?
Right, I'll be honest. I used to like massively overuse EQ, but recently I've been a bit like the complete opposite. I've been like almost scared to use EQ. So it's like for certain stuff it's in the context of a mix, like I might need it to cut through a bit more, so I might be trying to get some more out of here.
Yeah, great.
If I need some more weight on it, I might be pushing some of the lower end a bit more.
Yeah.
And then if it's a bit, I suppose sometimes muddy or boxy or these lovely words that get thrown around, I might get somewhere like, between 2 and 5 or
Right.
something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're the main zones, the sort of the
Yeah.
base weight, and there's different qualities in the low end of it, like the sort of the subby weight to it. There's the sort of more thumpy weight, more like around 100, 120 hertz.
Yeah.
And then there's the clicky stuff around 3K, which is useful for making it cut through. So that's cool. I'm just going to show you a trick actually, if
Yeah,
that's okay. I've got a
please.
really neat trick on kick drums to give them a bit more subby depth, but also keep them controlled. Just pop up an EQ on your kick there.
Yeah.
Let's make that a little bit bigger just so we can hear a bit more, see it a bit more clearly. And I'm going to use a low cut filter to add bass. Yeah. So but with resonance.
Okay, I think so.
Have I shown you this before?
I think we did go through this. So you do something like that, and then
Yeah, just pop that up, and then just
yeah.
move the frequency around, and you'll find at some point there's a lovely little subby thump that sort of comes through.
I think somewhere around there sounds quite nice. It's
Yeah, just compare it, just take it off. It just adds a really satisfying kind of weight to it.
yeah, that sounds much like much bigger now, much heavier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So it looks like in terms of like the areas of EQ you're thinking about, you're like you know this stuff. Those areas, the sort of the fundamental frequency of the drums, the snap of them, and the texture in the middle. That applies to the kick drum, to the snare drum, to the toms as well, in a very similar sort of way.
Yeah.
Um,
I'd say one thing I'm a bit cautious about is how much, I suppose, because, and I know it's probably a case of just going through it and adjusting, but, you know, what are we actually listening out for? Like, is there a point, say, like, oh, we wanted a clicky kick drum, and it was like, oh, okay, where does it then become too clicky, and where is it, not enough?
mm, well, of course, every recording is going to be made differently, and like every kick recording is going to have a greater or lesser amount of click on it. So we can't take a preset necessarily and just sort of like plonk it on and expect we're going to need to use some extra boost on 3K. It really is like a kind of hear it in the track and use your ears kind of thing. Like if it's not cutting through, you know you have that tool to use to help it cut through.
Right.
So it's in your arsenal for when you need it. And really, it's just a case of like at some point, once you've looked over the drums thoroughly, get the song back together and see if it needs it. It's really that. And as you get more comfortable with the sound of all these different techniques and what they can do, you'll know when to draw them out of your toolkit.
Right, right. Yeah,
So
that
there isn't really a simple answer to that, except for just learning what effect these changes can have on it, and then having that in mind for when you need it.
fantastic, fantastic. I would say one thing, I know we've got only 10 minutes left. So one thing I would like to look at is the kind of overheads, because
Mhm.
that is somewhere that throws me off because, I've heard, people saying, oh, well, overheads can change the sound of the entire drum kit. And some people will be like, oh, well, you just want to cut off every instrument or cut
Mhm.
it to 1K or something. And then I was to be like, no, you need to like adjust it like and work around the overheads
Mm.
and I'm just confused, like where are the areas in the overheads that I should be looking out for per se?
All right. Okay. Let's listen to the overheads and talk about it. So just solo the overheads so we know what we're working with. Um, yeah. Let's hear them. So quite quiet there, but like those overheads are really nicely recorded. We're picking up the whole kit. We've got plenty of cymbals, but we've got lots of the actual skin drums in there as well. So like you could, in some instances, base your sound around the overheads. You could instead of like you can either base the sound around the overheads and keep all the low frequency stuff in there and use the bass from the overheads to support the bass drum and the snare drum. Which suddenly it becomes very relevant that we've checked the phase against the overheads, because if we're going to support the overhead sound
Right. Yeah.
that they're singing from the same hymn sheet. But yeah, you can make a sound based around the overheads, and get the overheads sounding as good as they can just by themselves.
Mhm.
Then blend in your close mic sound to support it in whatever way the overheads demand. So the overheads will pick up the whole kit, but they won't be completely balanced. So like they might be a little bit biased towards the snare drum or the kick drum, and so you can use the close mics to add more support to those things.
Okay.
So like that's an instance where if you're looking for a very natural sound,
Yeah.
and if you're working on a track that demands that, like definitely like things like jazz recording and a lot of acoustic stuff will want to have that natural sound and want to have the like a jazz drummer like is balancing the volume of all of their drums
Mhm.
from what they're hearing right there in front of the kit.
Okay.
So you've already got your sound there, recorded
Yeah.
well and with that in mind. Um, So yeah, that's one approach to start with the overheads, make them sound great. We're using a bit of EQ, maybe a little bit of compression, just to sort of get them a little bit more controlled. Maybe not.
Mhm.
And then bring in some close mics to support that for
So I
certain.
know it's like probably not a right or wrong, but do you tend to lean just to leave your overheads quite unprocessed?
Oh, it really depends on the style and what I'm doing with them. Because like if I'm working on some sort of powerful rock music, then I will definitely want to base things more around the close mics and have more control and more sort of like upfront punch.
Yeah.
In which case, I will roll off some of the low end on the overheads more likely,
Mhm. Okay.
and think of them not as like overheads to the whole kit, but as cymbal mics.
Okay. Sure. Right.
So like they're the two ways that I like conceptually think about overheads. They're either the main kit mic picking up the whole stereo image of the kit.
Yeah.
They're the cymbal mics,
Fantastic.
and
Yeah.
somewhere like it can be somewhere in between, but like they're the two kind of like mindsets. Like so
Yeah.
so like there isn't one right way of doing it. It depends on the context. Um, yeah.
Sure. That makes no. That makes sense. That
Um,
makes sense. And now the other thing is, it's not to do with the overheads, but I've never got good results out of gating tom mics. I've
okay.
always thought it just sounds too unnatural, and you get this weird like if they, when they hit the crash or something, it's like
Yeah.
on the things, and I've always just found it like really unpleasant to gate kind of drum mics.
Okay. Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's like a normal outlook to have because some people like, if I watch a video or something, they'll be like, "Oh no, I've got to gate all these mics," and then, but I've never ever got that to sound good.
Okay. Um, Yeah, it can be very tricky to get that balance right, definitely. Let's get a noise gate on one of your toms there, just the basic logic gate on one of your toms. All right, let's make that a bit bigger so we can see it a bit more clearly. Okay, all right. Okay, so what settings are you reaching for straight away with this, just to sort of like
Basically, the attack and threshold.
okay, and how are you setting them?
Okay, so if I was to, I'm just setting them so I just get the.
I think you have your overheads playing as
Oh,
well there.
it just sounds like so robotic or something.
Okay, all right. Here we go, Jack.
Okay.
So, so gating gating drums. We'll want to go for the shortest possible attack that doesn't actually make a clicking sound when it opens. So on the logic gate, if you go for a 0 milliseconds attack, if you play it, you'll hear this sort of often this kind of snapping sound when it opens because it's like going from no signal to some signal. So
Okay.
usually, almost exclusively on the if I'm using this gate, I'll use 1 millisecond attack on this gate.
Oh,
Short
okay.
that will just make sure it opens as soon as possible, so we get as much of that initial transient as possible without that clicking sound. There are better gates with shorter times that don't click, but this is actually very effective in lots of ways. I will not use look ahead because that will change its. Will actually push it in time, I think. So I'll just so I don't want to get it out of line time wise with the rest of the mics.
Okay.
The thing that makes it sound unnatural now is that when the gate closes, it closes very suddenly.
Mhm.
So this is a case of opening up the release, increasing the release, so it's going to give a natural tail. So right now, when the level of the drum drops below the threshold, it closes the gate straight away, and you have a very unnatural kind of sound. If you
Yeah.
bring up the release to, I don't know, maybe bring it up to 400 milliseconds or something. So now, basically, the attack is how quickly the sound will fade in
Mhm.
when the gate opens, and the release is how quickly the sound will fade out when the gate closes. So now it's going to open very quickly and then close quite slowly while the tom has a chance to ring out.
Oh,
So let's just try that right now.
oh, yeah, that does sound more natural, but now you're getting all the symbols back in there.
Yeah, yeah. So now we just need to bring up the threshold a little bit. So it's only the toms that are coming through. A bit further. Maybe just a little bit
Yeah.
further. You're still getting that first thing. Okay. All right. So that is now kind of set up pretty well.
Hmm.
The next thing I would look at now that we've got this gate kind of really well controlled,
Yeah.
we're using maximum reduction now. So when the gate is closed, it's going to be like effectively completely silent.
Okay.
So it's doing the most work. You don't have to have it there. The reduction, like if you bring that up to like -6 or -12 or something like that, the reduction, yeah. Then that means that when the gate's closed, it's going to be reducing the level by 6 decibels.
Oh, okay.
So
I see.
so it's going to be less of a dramatic effect, but that just means that there is some of the bleed coming through the rest of the time. So like instead of completely cutting it, like completely changing the relationship between the mics, you're just improving the bleed situation without completely cutting it, and that can
Oh,
sound a lot more natural if you sort of like 6 decibels or 10 decibels or something. So it's having some like meaningful reduction. So right now that's basically going to halve the volume of the sound when the toms aren't playing.
okay. So, yeah. So, like, rather than just completely cutting out all the cymbals and the
Yeah,
kick and snare,
yeah,
it's just going to turn them down, basically.
yeah.
Okay. So, okay. Yeah. That
But
sounds.
so it can just stop it sounding quite so stark and unnatural.
Yeah.
Yeah, that can really help.
And then what does this button do? Well, this knob turn the hold.
So like this is another part of the envelope of the sound. So right now, when the tom is loud in the threshold, it's going to take 1 millisecond, 1,000th of a second to open the gate very quickly, and then it's going to keep it open for 40 milliseconds regardless of what happens.
Okay.
And then if at that point or at any point after that the sound goes below the threshold, it will then fade it out over 414 milliseconds.
Right.
So if you were to change the release to like to 0, pop the hold up to 200 milliseconds, This means that basically every time that it opens, you'll hear it at full volume for 200 milliseconds, and then it will suddenly drop off.
Okay. Oh wow, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, really sharp kind of call.
So that's some of it. The reality I find is that sometimes I can't get quite enough control from
Mhm.
gate controls to get the toms coming through, but no snares.
Yeah,
And in those cases, very often I will actually edit the toms. Once I've finished comping my drums,
yeah.
I'll then chop out the bits of the tom track that I don't want to hear because
Just tell the drummer to like play better, like
play it harder.
balance better.
That's another solution, but it's too late for that now.
Yeah.
Yeah, just lastly, while we're here,
Yeah.
the other thing you can do to help with this is you can use the filter on the right. So this is the filter that's going to trigger the gate to open.
Okay.
So if you were to bring the cutoff down to uh, like 1,000 hertz or something, this means that like what the gate is listening to as in terms of when it's going to open itself, it's going to ignore everything above 1,000 hertz. So that'll mean that cymbals will not open the gate anymore.
Okay, fantastic. So yeah,
Snare drums might still open it though, like because
Mhm.
they'll have some stuff down around 200 hertz that's going to be punching through.
Right. That's quite clever.
Um, yeah. I mean, I'm mentioning this just for you to explore. I don't think we had a problem with this in this case, but it's another tool you have just while we're looking at the noise gate. So
Yeah.
yeah.
No,
Um,
I
so
mean,
that's this is like sort of like the really thorough basics of drum mixing. There's more to go into, and I'd really enjoy doing that. I will have to
yeah,
stop
definitely.
now. But yeah, like just like doing treating the signals with respect. Like you've recorded them really nicely,
Mhm.
um, and just not reaching for EQs and compressors because that's what we do, but like listening to what it really needs
Okay, yeah.
as ever, to bring out the best qualities, making sure your close mics are well balanced, knowing you have an option to blend between your close mics and your overheads and room mics to sort of change the character of the sound. But essentially, you've got like different whole entities, close, overhead, room. You've got three things
Yeah.
instead of 10 things there. Yeah, and one last thing I'm just going to pop in before we finish is that if you want to keep a quite a natural sound to the kit, but bring a bit more excitement to the sound, a bit of parallel compression can really help.
Yeah. Okay.
Popping a compressor on the whole drum bus is going to maintain the relationship between all the drums without sort of going into compressing things individually. You can end up in a bit of a web with that quite easily, but like that'll mean that the balance of all the kicks, snares, and toms are going to they're still going to be balanced, and they'll still be responding and making that needle move in the same kind of way. And Yeah, I mean, like things like the Sound Toys Devil Lock are really fun to sort of just like they're a really extreme kind of compression. You can blend in just a tiny amount of that, and it can bring a lot of excitement to the background of the sound. So
Uh,
if you want to keep that natural sound, but bring some more kind of like excitement and vibe and a bit of pump to it, then that's quite a nice option for that. But
yeah, definitely. Like, I'd love to explore this more. Like, I'd love to kind of do some more sessions on natural drum mixes, and then even possibly do sessions on the opposite way as well, where things
yeah,
are, not natural sounding drum
well,
mix or
I'll tell you
something.
what, Jack. Why don't you save this project as it is,
Yeah.
just with a note like drum drum mixing lesson or whatever, and then we can come back to this specific session and pick up if that would be helpful.
Do you know why my desktop doesn't show up on this, by the way?
I can't help you with that.
It's so strange. I don't like. Sometimes it's just like I like to say things there just so I can get access them easily, but I'm sure I'll find it.
Yeah, but yeah, like they're the rudiments. There's definitely some more we could look at to sort of go into more exciting territory. But I think the fundamentals are really important because you've got some nice recordings there. So
Thank you.
from the ground up and build it real nice.
Yeah, it's been so helpful to be fair, especially like looking over, the balances, the phases with the overheads. Obviously I do phases between two kick mics or two snares, but I never thought to do them, with the overheads. And yeah, obviously bringing this back to my attention as well. And
Yeah, so that's
the
a good.
gate thing's really, interesting because I've only, like I said, every time I tried the gate, it was like really artificial sounding. So
Yeah,
that's what made it quite nice. And
yeah, that was drum gating 101 right there.
I
So
know one.
okay, buddy. Cool. All right. Well, I look forward to hearing what you do with this as well, and be nice to come back to it another time. So
100%,
better,
100%.
I better head off just now. But yeah, cool. And are you happy for me to share this? Because I think it's quite a nice resource actually. This could be quite good.
Yeah, I think it's great, because going back to the basics as well, because you often overlook things, don't we? Like
Mm.
as engineers, you're like you want to get to the exciting
Yeah,
stuff.
of course, yeah.
And I think that's a big thing of what I've done is kind of skipped a lot of the basic stuff to get to the exciting things.
Well,
But
the toys are really fun, so
yeah, exactly.
and
All
whacking a
right.
big compressor on things sounds great. So yeah, but yeah, just lovely. All right, great to see you, Jack.
Yeah, likewise.
Be in touch later in the week, okay?
100%. I'll speak to you soon.
Take care, buddy.
Bye
Bye.
bye.